We have learned a lot by doing and implementing a number of projects and programs, but one good thing we have done is we have never made a mistake. We have not relied on outside intervention. We have not depended on external forces to come and implement programs. That's been the struggle. I mean, they would come and tell you, oh, they would like to put wells here and there. They would like to implement charity programs. They would like to run your hospitals. They would like to do your programs on behalf of you. And that's where many who were supposed to have achieved a lot in the Millennium Development Goals are now more, they are poorer now.
You mean the aid is not an aid?
Not at all. Anyone who takes aid is crippled. And aid is meant to cripple people. So, do we agree or disagree is another issue. And governments in Africa and elsewhere are not allowed to write their own programs. And when it comes to implementing programs, it deprives you of building institutions and the capacity to implement your programs. You want to build a road, you want to build a school, you want to provide clean water, you want to provide electricity to the communities everywhere. You have to be able to know it. You may not have the capacity, technical, technological, or even financial resources, but you have to build this capacity. Unless you do it on your own, someone else does it. And when you are talking about, say, food security, someone comes and provides you with aid, and then you develop this habit. Every year it's aid. Every year it's aid coming. I mean, it's intentionally or without any intention meant to cripple communities and government. And you have substitutes for government. It's NGOs, it's charities, it's UN agencies, it's other agencies, consultants who are paid
fortunes.
Anyway, that makes a big problem. So we said we need to write our own program in the first place. We need to articulate on the projects we write, and we need to have a strategy, a comprehensive strategy. And we need to have detailed plans on how we implement those programs. We need to have budgetary issues addressed. We need to have scheduling of different programs. Unless we do that on our own, we can't possibly imagine that we are achieving any of the goals, millennium or non-millennium. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, was quite an experience for us. The lessons we have learned are assets for us, even though we need to go a long way. We need to mobilize resources. We need to put in place an infrastructure. We need to develop institutional capacity. We need to educate our people. We need to train our young to be able to work and implement those programs so that we change the quality of life. That never happens in the real world. In the real world, we know now, because those who control the resources, those who have the muscles to impose their own will, are somewhere else, and they have their own interests. We, on the other hand, have our interests. So it's up to you to make a choice. Do you go with them or do you go your own way? Africa can produce its own food and go more. Why aren't we able to do that? Why haven't we been successful in implementing programs that secure food for our own people? Because that's a priority. Because we are talking about poverty, famine, disease, epidemics here and there, sometimes natural catastrophes. How do we design programs? Now, if you have a long coast like what we have, then you need to develop fisheries, because that's a resource. You need to develop the capacity, but not for, we live in a globalizing world, because you have to interact, you have to sell and buy. It's not self-sufficiency all the time. When you talk about self-sufficiency, they will demonize it as if it means isolation. It's not isolation. You have to be self-sufficient for the short or medium term. It's a transitional program, but then again, you have to identify your comparative advantage. What are my comparative advantages? Do I have agriculture? Do I have enough water? Do I have mineral resources? You need to think least when it comes to mineral resources. You have to be able to exactly know what your comparative advantages are. Your location could be a comparative advantage, and you have to develop the services industry, provide services, shipping, transportation, air, land. You need to think that, because you have to know your comparative advantage. Then you have to talk about industry and manufacturing. It's not easy. This is a very stiff area where you need to compete with giants. You have to produce something. If you're talking about cotton production, yes, you may produce cotton. If you're talking about textile, okay, you can do that. You can't go for garments, because garments require so many things. You have to go and compete in markets. That's where, even in agriculture, you have to talk about food, crops, and cash crops. You can produce cotton, oil seeds, sugar, and other horticultural programs for export. That will generate a lot of resource for you, but you need to have a balanced, comprehensive program that takes stock of your comparative advantage in a number of sectors, and you have to design programs for those particular sectors and come to work on that. That's where the problem comes. When you have someone who thinks you are a backyard, you do this or you do that. A collective change. So I would say that's a very natural thing for human beings. When those who control power control these resources, local agents or even conglomerates from outside, then the gap widens and poverty becomes very prevalent. You don't know how to use this resource, or you're going to a very dangerous track. That's where we need to prioritize other things. These reserves will not live for so many generations to come. Even those who brag about endless resources have no endless resources. There is an end at one point in time, and this is a resource that is eligible for an ownership that may take 3-4 generations to come. Now, when you put in place an infrastructure, when you emphasize on sustainable sectors, agriculture is a sustainable sector. Natural disasters may come, but what you do in implementing agricultural programs and putting in place agricultural infrastructure makes that sector sustainable. And because it's a strategic commodity, a strategic program for communities, you need to focus on that. If you forgo agriculture because you have gold, then you go into trouble. If you forgo other comparative advantage that you have because you have gold, then you make a big mistake. That's where you need to be careful, and that's where we think, yes, we have it, but we don't even want to exaggerate that this could solve all problems. What solves the problems is what we do in terms of the goals we identify, and once we achieve those goals, a combination of so many sustainable things. Fishing will live with us for generations to come. We need to put in place facilities for processing fish, good capacity for fishing, train people to do the job, have markets, continually provide markets, and buy.
To eat fish and cook
Yeah,
it?
for local markets, it's everything. It has to be there. Food crops, wheat, barley, corn, and others will have to be available. Livestock is here. If we develop agriculture, we have livestock, enough for us and for export. We need to develop these sustainable resources and sectors so that we can take advantage of mineral resource. Otherwise, focusing on gold is a big mistake. Gold glitters, but it blinds people also. Why are people greedy? Can you find an explanation for that? Why does someone want to take your resources unjustly? It's no secret that they want to dominate the world. It's no secret that they control resources. Even if we're talking about special interests, they may have their allies, they may have their networks globally, but they are the main stakeholders or the majority stakeholders in what we call special interest. Oil industry, manufacturing, technology, even the control of our minds, media, culture, learning institutions. Somehow they have come to control and they believe they can control the world. It's a big mistake. Yes, during the Cold War, there was a bipolar world. There was competition between the former Soviet Union and the United States as superpowers. We have seen how that fight has emerged into a situation. That era ended early 90s, probably 20 years ago. And these special interest groups have developed a very wrong and distorted notion that now they are the only superpower. They have to control the resources of the world for the coming 2-3 generations and maybe beyond, because no one can compete with them, and they cannot allow anyone to compete with them. They can't allow any power to rise to be their equal in terms of the military capability. No one is allowed to be their equal in terms of controlling technology, the latest technology. They have to influence major resources of the world, and they have to have the means for doing that. The previous issues we raised about special interests controlling the media, conglomerates, controlling regional and international institutions, including financial institutions, governing or controlling the world by proxy, by agents. This is not my analysis. This is a program for these people. This is their global program. They want to control the world. Come to Africa, they will tell you they will have anchors, south, west, east, and north. And they have to have agents. That was what I mentioned earlier about the Nixon doctrine.
Yes.
Because the United States cannot overstretch. It has to control areas by agents. And they have to identify and select agents. It's not hostility towards Eritrea. This is a very sick mentality, an intolerant mentality of domination and control. And whenever people are not conforming to their wishes and their priority, then you would be targeted. But it's not an isolated case. It's not Eritrea alone. We are part of a very sensitive region.
Yes.
We have so many conflicts because of their policies. It's Afghanistan, it's Pakistan, it's Iraq, it's the Middle East in general, it's the Horn of Africa, the Red Sea. This is an area designated for their control and domination.
Yes, we will talk about that.
We unfortunately, we happen to be in this geography. Globalization may have different meanings, but globalization is a result of the transformation that has taken place during the 20th century. Now we are in the 21st century. I say there is a law that governs communities. When individuals came together in primitive communities, there has to be a rule that is acceptable for everyone. They come together to live together, to mobilize resources collectively and achieve collective goals. This was there even when the Bible was written and when the Quran was written. People talked about poor and wealthy, poor and rich. And the status quo of any community at one particular historical moment is not acceptable to allow a minority grab on the resources of the majority and make the poor poorer while they accumulate wealth at the expense of the majority. This has been the struggle of communities since, I don't know, millennia. Okay? This is the rule of the game. We are not inventing anything. You don't invent anything. If you have a community in the 21st century, you cannot allow a minority coming and grabbing the opportunity of others and the resource of others and depriving others of the opportunity to change their quality of life. It's as simple as that. You can talk about ideologies, you can talk about the philosophy behind these ideologies, but it's a rule. Human beings will have to live together fairly, share resources equitably. There has to be a rule that governs their relationship. There has to be a rule on how they produce. There has to be a rule of the game on how they distribute wealth. And there has to be a rule of the game on how they distribute or how they consume wealth. It's as simple as that. You want to talk about a community at a particular historical moment, then you have to ask these very simple questions. These are not the product of the 20th century or even the 19th century when industrialization came, when communities were transformed. We have now the information age. We can talk about globalization, but the same question remains all along. And the rules are always the same. Even in a highly industrialized community or society or nation, you have to ask these very simple rules. Who makes wealth? Who creates wealth? And how do people share wealth created by the majority? And do they share wealth fairly and equitably? And that's where the problem comes. Wars are a result of the mismanagement of these basic rules or adoption of these basic rules. And I say globalization now has brought us to a new era, but the rules have not changed. We're talking about minorities, small, special interests are creating havoc for everybody else. Greed is the motivation, but ultimately it's control of resources. To control the resources, you have to dominate. Okay? And domination will have to come by all Machiavellian tactics. This is Machiavellian. It's to achieve your goals, do whatever you like, and the end justifies the means. These are the means for achieving the goals. So you can cite examples. It's not just theories or concepts within a package of means used by these special interests to control and dominate the world. That's not, it's very transparent. How do they do it in each and every case? And sometimes people will say, oh, individual countries. There are no individual countries in their own eyes. This has become a reality because of history. You have this nation, that nation, how many countries in Africa, how many countries in Asia. But for them, this does not exist. They have areas of influence. Areas of influence are identified One, their economic resource, any kind of resource. Second, their strategic position. Whether they have a resource or not doesn't matter, as long as they are part of the geography, and that becomes the problem. And third is the communities who are supposed to be sovereign, who are supposed to be free, will have to be enslaved. It's a global enslavement. To achieve the goals of domination and control of resources, how do you enslave people? You have to have an agent to do that. They will try every means. It's from luring anyone into the trap, or even forcing someone, or eliminating. It goes from buying or trying to compromise, win, use. If that is not possible, it can go to the extent of eliminating. It's as simple as that. The range could vary, the circumstance could vary, but demonizing, trying to buy, destabilize, disintegrate, divide and rule, under so many names, you weaken societies. If you want to control, you have to weaken societies. Weakening societies could be done by an agent. You can buy a government, you can buy ministers, you can buy officials of government, you can buy institutions working within a country that will promote this interest. If you can, without any difficulty, grab the resources and no one is challenging you or putting an obstacle, then everything is okay. You can be democratic, you can be an angel, you can be anything, you can be praised for being a great person or a great country, many things. If that is possible, then yes, but that's not always the case. I have always fascinated myself with a concept I learned in Atlanta when they were trying to find a negotiated settlement between Eritrea, and I was curious to know about a phrase, carrot and stick. What is this carrot and stick? I said, I have to educate myself, and someone was telling me this is a French saying. It's meant for a donkey. If a donkey doesn't move, you have to use both, a stick and a carrot. Look, we are human beings. We are human beings as communities. And why would you use carrot and stick? Even when there is always this carrot, there is a stick always. They don't use one single tool at one point in time. They have to use both because they have to threaten you. And fear is one way of dominating. What you see happening psychologically in collective manners, individual manner, intimidation is one of their tools. Blackmail is another tool. Blackmail could be demonizing and doing everything. And corrupting. Corrupting is number one. And that's been one of the disease. They talk about the Millennium Goals, they talk about AIDS, they talk about so many other diseases. I say, if we can cure this disease called corruption, we could easily deal the other issues. Okay? So it's corruption.
Yeah.
If you're not corrupt, then you are a bad guy. This is a laughing stock. It's a shame. It's an uncalculated mistake they made. They simply wanted to tarnish Eritrea. They don't know what's going on here. They don't know what's going on elsewhere. Their intention is to tarnish or demonize Eritrea, and they have to come in. You don't need to bother about these people. These are hired mercenaries who do the job of their masters. Who are their masters? Who pays them?
Of information?
This is part of the game. This is part of the game we are in, especially now in the 21st century. They have mastered the art of controlling learning institutions, of focusing on certain trades, and setting up organizations under different names, hiring think tanks, hiring and targeting whom they think they can target. The targets are very obvious. Anyone who is standing in front of whatever they want to achieve is an enemy and has to be targeted. And how do you demonize that enemy? Their advantage always is manipulating public opinion. And in so many places, they have intoxicated communities not to critically think and try to find the truth behind what they see on stage. That is an advantage, they think, with all the control of media, with all the control they have about think tanks, consultancies, a number of organizations. People don't ask, oh, this is a big name, this is a big brand. It has to be right. It should have been working, doing its homework to come to this conclusion. Any issue, he's free to think about it. He's free to have a judgment or an observation about something, but it has to be an informed judgment. And you need to tell people the truth. With all these conglomerates controlling the media and manipulating public opinion for their own ends, and sometimes even instigating problems here and there to distract the attention of the public for focusing on their real issues, is one major challenge for humanity. I don't say for journalists or politicians or philosophers. It's a challenge for humanity. These people live by fear. They have to make people feel threatened. And when there is no reason for making people fearful, you have to create something, you provoke an incident that makes people feel insecure. And then you come and tell them, I will protect you. It's a phenomenon. I don't want to talk I don't want to go into the controversy, but again, this idea of terrorism. Okay, we collectively in this area, Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, Uganda, we don't want someone to disrupt our own peace and collective benefits. Anyone, even a local person, is not allowed. And all communities don't allow someone to come and disrupt harmony and peace in society, even when it's coming from inside. It's not acceptable. Now, this threat, if it exists, if this threat is there, we could fight it without AFRICOM. Okay? We don't need anyone's help. We don't need missiles. We don't need high tech to fight this threat if it exists. But this is, whether it was real or imagined, has been used to frighten people everywhere. In Europe, in the Americas, in Africa, Asia. It's the only tool, in fact, of the last decade. It became the only viable tool for them, for the special interest, to use it to threaten people, make people, oh, there is going to be a bomb in Paris, there is going to be a bomb in a train station, there is going to be a bomb here or there, distract people from their attention and make them feel insecure. And then who can secure their lives? Bush was telling the world, we will make the world safer.
Yes.
But you can read it the other way around, because he wants to make the world unsafe so that he can promote his own special interest. It's not a question of being revolutionary or not, but 99% of the people, and maybe more, in the United States are victims of this special interest. Okay? Now, I know many Eritreans, Africans, Asians who've gone to the United States because it's the land of hope, it's an American dream, it's many things. Now, you cannot go and compete with vultures in the United States. And the more people go there, they learn more about this system and how it behaves. What democracy means to people, what representation means to people. I mean, we may have some procedural issues, we have timing, we have a number of questions that matter, but again, I don't exaggerate if I say the most undemocratic nation on earth is the United States. Why? Because it's a democracy, it's a control. I don't know what they call it. There is a term, maybe I've forgotten it, but an anarchic totalitarianism. Anarchy for a small minority, the special interest, but it's totalitarian. It's totalitarian because they control everything. They control the economy, they control resources, they control the lives of human beings, they control almost everything. Culture, social life of human beings, they control everything. It's one of the erosion of values. Money should not be involved in any elections. Do we agree on that basic principle? Do you need lobbyists? Do you need corporates and corporations to come and finance? I mean, it's a joke in the United States. Democrats and Republicans, Soros financing the Democrats, someone else financing the Republicans. And when you know the inside story on how this is manipulated, it's very sad that these values of representation of the people has been undermined by their tactics. And it's become a norm now. It's not only in the United States. If they want any group or individual or special interest who would be agents to promote their interests, they will pump anything under different names. And that's very sad. That's why where we say, we're not talking about elections from your perspective. We're not talking about elections from their perspective. There has to be a genuine representative for people. If we live in a community, the community will have to elect people who manage the affairs of the community. Without that, you cannot live as a community. And that's a basic requirement for a nation building
Without
or for a community. Without interference. Why? If you buy votes, is that representation? The more money, and finally, it becomes if 99% of the population own nothing, if they are have-nots, and if 1% of the population is the percentage that has everything, and if money is elections, 1% will buy the votes of 99%, and what the outcome, the end result represents 1% of the population. Okay? We can talk about so many things about it's very phenomenal because we cannot put aside this issue. It's a critical issue. We may talk about other problems of special interest, domination, control, this and that, but again, how are they able to control? The way they control, even in the United States, this is not isolating the United States as if it's everything, special interest. I would say 99% of the population in the United States is like everybody else in the world. We don't have our economic rights, we don't have our political rights, we don't have our cultural rights. We're not even allowed to survive without their blessing. This state of affair will have to change by allowing people to freely have their representative bodies, whatever that body should be. We need to focus on this. They will come and say, oh, Eritrea did not go for elections, Eritrea did not do this and that, and someone else did not do that. No, look, you have to find somewhere else another problem. This is not a place for you to talk about. We have other issues to talk about, and you are, they have undermined the concept of democracy. They have abused the concept of democracy. They have totally eroded and compromised the basic values that should have governed the lives of human beings. Now, when they're doing that, it's part of their behavior, it's part of their culture. I mean, they can talk about as if they uphold these values. They don't like these values at all. You cannot control people, you cannot dominate a country, you cannot abuse or misuse your own authority or resource. The advantage for you is you are privileged to be serving the people. I don't want to take advantage of my position and say, well, have a very good villa with a tennis ground, with a swimming pool, have bank account somewhere else, I grab here, I grab there, I do this and that, I hit people, I go around and harass people, and you can't do that. It's not, this is not politics. This is humanity. How do I see the future? I can say I am the most optimistic person, not emotionally, but concretely. I think I have done my job well, and I have the reward for doing my job well. No one is coming to reward me, give me a medal or anything else. I don't want that. But again, I have done my job well, and I believe I can contribute more with everybody else, and I see now lives are changing, reality is changing, and I say I, with my colleagues, with everybody else, and the citizens of this nation have collectively done something meaningful for us as human beings now and for generations to come. And I can see down the road how will life look for generations. I can see it's going to be better than now. It's going to be better than yesterday. That's enough.
So, as a happy president, finally, what would be your message for Europeans, Africans, and all over the world?
Many will not like it, but there are only a small minority. I would say, let's fight together for changing the reality for the good of generations to come. We talk about globalization, we talk about so many things. We come from Europe, we come from Asia, we come from the Americas. We have shared interests, we have to work together. And I would say it's not an option. It's not our liking. We don't decide whether we take this option or that option. This is the option available to us, and we need to know that, and that's where we have to work hard to make people know. They have to relate to each other, they have to work together. Their collective endeavor will bring a collective change. So I would say that's a very natural thing for human beings to do.
President Isaias Afewerki,
Thank you very much.
Very much.